I'm going to get right into it. Picture this. I'm in another room of the house and I have a toddler. He's around 2. And I hear a crash in the kitchen. So again, heart stops. You run in there to see what's happened. And standing there is my little guy. The fridge door's open and he has smashed a 1 kilo tub of yogurt. It's smashed all over the floor. It's all down him. It's like dripping from his little cheeks. It's all over the fridge and he's just looking at me. Now, I wish that I could tell you in that moment I saw the funny side. I so did not. All I could think about was, are you kidding me? I have got so much to do today and now I have to clean up you and this fridge. And so I did that. You know that pretending to be nice mummy but not nice mummy? Where I go, sweetie, what are you doing? He looks up at me and he says, I was getting a Yakult. Well, next time you want something from the fridge, sweetie, can you ask mummy first? And he went, okay, and ran out of the room. So I'm still angry at this stage, so I didn't even notice that that wasn't a good situation. I'm thinking this was a good situation. The kid's gone, I've got to clean this mess up, it's all good. So I'm down on the ground and I'm like, and as I was doing that, something inside me just calmed right down. And I heard those words ringing in my ears. Next time you want something, ask mummy. And I thought, wow, that's empowering, fabulous. This is going to make this kid an independent, able, capable child. Next time you want something, ask me. That moment changed my life. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm covered in yogurt. Everything was going wrong. But it really changed my life. It made me reflect so deeply about being a mum. And in that moment, I came up with 2 things. And those 2 things were, first of all, I can have another turn. I don't have to be perfect at this. I've really stuffed this up, like completely, but I'm going to have another turn. I'm going to call him in the room and I'm going to have another go. And the second thing I realised was that the only real reason why this happened was because he didn't have spatial awareness. He didn't have the life skill to do that. This wasn't about a naughty boy. This is about a kid that didn't know that if you stick your hand at the back of the fridge and pull something forward, everything forward of it comes too. And then he's covered, doesn't know what's going on, and there's a mummy going, next time you want something, ask me. Like, this is a day from hell for this kid. And I contributed to it. So I called out Cameron in my gentle voice, not Cameron, but, Cameron. And I could see the little guy, like he sneaks in around the corner to see if it's ugly mummy or good mummy at this point in time. And I was down on the ground and I just had my arms wide open for him and he came running and sat in my lap. And I just said, sweetie, mummy got that completely wrong and I want to have another turn. Will you let me have another turn? He looked at me like, yeah, okay, that's fine. He was absolutely fine with it. So I talked about it and I said, mummy said that every time you want something, you ask me. And I said, but that wasn't a good decision. Mummy wants to make another one, because he was only tiny. I used to talk in the mummy wants to. He doesn't. I don't talk that way now, just in case you're wondering if I still say that. I don't. But age appropriate, I was trying to explain to him that I'd really made a mistake and that I wanted to try it again. So I said to him, what I'd really like to do now is I'd like to teach you how to get things out of the back of the fridge so that things don't fall out when you do want to get something. And he was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's a new experience. So we moved all the things in front. We got the Yakult at the back and we started pulling. I said, see, stop. See what's happening now? And he's like, oh yeah, I can see that's happening now. So we practiced and practiced. And I mean, literally 5, 10 times. And I said, you think you can do it yourself now? And he went, put his hand in, moved everything across, pulled out his yakult and went. And that was the best moment for me. And I realised from then I just need to have a different approach. It's okay to make mistakes. I can tell him I'm sorry and have another go. He skipped off like nothing had happened because I'd fixed it. I'd made something that was terrible right again. So that was my number one. But the second one was I was now a woman on a mission. Life skills, that's it. I'm gonna give this kid life skills. He's gonna be the most life-skilled child on the planet. So of course, I Googled all this stuff to try and find life skills, and all I could find was, if it was to do with life skills, it was to do with children who had a disability or a difficulty, and it was just to bring them to like mere normality or existence. It had nothing to do with being inspired and achieving and all the things we know that the life skills do. And of course, as part of my process, I did find the life skills report and I thought, this is cool, this is really good. And I also found so much of the beautiful work that people like yourselves are doing. But what I found was it wasn't in one spot. It took a really, really long time for me to find it all. There was the finance, and there was the emotional intelligence, and there was the brain development, and there was stuff on, environmental, because of course you want your child to be socially environmentally apt as well. He's a very good recycler, my child. And so I decided I was going to put together a program for him, because I figured if I don't put a program together, it's never going to happen. And I came up with 7 categories, and the first one, of course, was personal power, self-esteem and resilience. That was going to be my foundational one. And then I moved to relationships, communication and relationships, health and well-being, social environmental understanding, of course, education, career and money. I'm an accountant, so I had to have that in there somewhere. Inspired creativity and relaxation and play, because that's what something mummy doesn't do very well, relax and play in between doing all the work and everything else. So I figured that would be a category where I could benefit as well. And I want to tell you about how that works in practice in my home. I do it 15 minutes at a time, all of these categories, and when I was sharing them with my friends, they were going, well, you can't keep it to yourself, you have to do it for everybody else. And I'm like, on top of everything else I do, how am I going to get a program out there? So my husband said, why don't you just write one a week? So that's what I did. And now there's 104 life skills written across the 7 areas, just one skill a week. And Cameron has just really thrived from all of these skills. He really knows which is the blue bin, which is the recycling bin, and which is the silver bin stuff, which is the garbage stuff. And we talk about how we want to minimise the garbage stuff and maximise the recycling stuff. So he's like, can we do this in the recycling? If we pull the plastic off, can we put the paper in? I'm like, great, we can do that. But my favourite of all the skills that he's developed, I want to share with you, and that's to do with health and well-being. I was really worried about the growing numbers of children with obesity. In Australia, the numbers are 1 in 4 are either overweight or obese. And we all know that that leads to so many other problems. We've got increasing rate in diabetes. And so I thought, you know what? Diet begins when you're little. And he really has to understand about health and well-being, exercise, nutrition. So one of the biggest problems is eating junk food. Let's face it, it's a simple equation. Rubbish in, fat. Good in, not fat. It's pretty simple. So we had this discussion about what is called everyday food, which is your healthy, crunchy, shiny, beautiful food, and weekend food, because obviously you can't deprive them. We've got to have some kind of, chips and lollies and donuts and all the rest of it. So weekend food happens on the weekend, and while we were working this out, a lot of weekend food became, is this everyday food, Mummy? No, darling, it's weekend food. But now he's really got it. He really knows what's weekend food and what's not. And we've been staying with, he's 4. Marlene knows. We've been staying with her graciously for a week. And I want to tell you how it manifests in life with him. Here's 3 examples. You get challenged every day. kids have got junk food in front of them at the shops, at school. Anyway, we were at a restaurant and it was a Thursday night for a birthday. And you know how when you go and pay the check, there's usually a big counter of lollies or chocolates or something up there. And he was standing next to me and he said, "Can I take one of those home for the weekend?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I picked it up, put it down. He gave it to me and said, "Put it in your handbag." The person behind the counter said, "Are you serious that he's actually given that to you and he's going to take it for the weekend?" I said, "Yeah, he knows it's weekend food, so he does that." The second example was, it was holiday camp and he plays golf, and it was a Monday on the school holidays, and Colin picked him up and he was telling me this story that of course they give the kids junk food, lollipops and all sorts of stuff for getting a hole in one or hitting it furthest or doing whatever, and each of the children had 3 lollipops. And Colin said that Cameron was walking towards him, and all of the kids had the lollipops in their mouths, and he had 3 in his hand. He said, "Daddy, can you put it in the cupboard for the weekend?" This is true at 4. And my final, most favourite story is we were at the park, and because we go to the park after school every day, and I was with him, and it was a Friday afternoon. And there was a little girl, I was in hearing distance but not at the scene, so I was sitting on the bench and there was a little girl and she was eating an ice cream, and he went up to her and he said, "Why are you eating weekend food when it's Friday?" And so, I'm sitting there listening to this thinking, this is new, this is interesting. And the little girl runs over to her mother and of course repeats what my kids just said. She yells out across the park, "It's nearly the weekend." So as you can imagine, at this point in time, I've got another life skill to teach my son at this point in time about the fact that not everyone has the same rules as we do, and that we have to understand and respect other people's differences. So for me, what it's showing me is that children can go well beyond what, for me, my son is showing me that he can go well beyond anything I ever did when I was a kid. And he really gets it. And he knows why he eats protein, and he knows why he eats carbohydrates. He knows why he eats crunchy, healthy foods, and he knows why weekend food tastes good, but it's not good for your body. Thank you.